Okay, in this tutorial, I'm going to introduce you to some of the key ideas about what is a good conclusion. Now, in this project, you have only been dealing with one research question. In your actual project, you're more than likely going to have been dealing with three. So your conclusion is going to be a lot more wide-ranging, and your conclusion will show a bit of connection between the different research questions that you used to achieve your aim. But because we only have one research question, our research question and our aim are largely the same thing. In the research question stage, when you were writing about your research question, you will have come up with some kind of hypothesis. And it's at this stage that we need to reflect back on the hypothesis. We're also going to have a little look at what being reasoned really looks like and how you must support any points you make in this final stage with some evidence. Okay. You must also have a statement that does finally determine, have you achieved your aim? So look back to the very start of your project, think about what your aim is, and tell me about has that aim been achieved, and if so, why so? So let's just break this down. Your research question was on looking at how one variable changed as you moved away from the coast. And your aim was to see how things change in general, and in this particular research question, you thought to study pH. Now, out of that, you will have developed a hypothesis about what you felt would be likely to happen with pH in this case as you move further away from the sea. And this will have been supported by some background research that you had conducted about why pH is likely to change as you move further away from the sea. Now, in the conclusion, we need to conclude about what have we discovered. So you need to outline what the research question is, first of all. So what were you aiming to prove? And based on the evidence, what do you now determine? So before you answer the hypothesis, you want to say, what does your evidence show about pH? Okay, and it does say reason. So that doesn't mean you have to have proved or disproved anything. On the basis of what you found, to what extent have you discovered that pH changes? So what is the range of pH change? Is that significant change? Is that enough to say this is a lot of change? Did the pH change a lot or not? And was it consistently changing? Was it getting higher consistently or lower consistently? Or was it quite variable? So words like that should appear in this conclusion. Second of all, you should refer to the evidence. So you should be using some data to support the judgment about the change, the amount of change you've discovered. You should need to tell me whether that was a lot or not. And also, because your data did show some variability in that change, you want to also indicate that evidence. That'll also mean that you'll be referring to the figure or the graph that presented this in the first place. Okay. Any other evidence you wish to use to support? So, for example, if you've gone ahead and done some statistics or a scatter graph to look at the relationship between distance and pH, then you'd want to bring that evidence in. So that is why when you were doing your findings, I suggest you could use the statistics and you could use a scatter graph to really strengthen the level of proof that you're trying to create to answer this research question about pH. Okay, and if you have done that, you also want to bring that in at this stage. That should then get you to the point where you're going to answer some kind of refer back to your hypothesis. Did you prove it or not? Now, most students often want to have a very black and white approach to this. I've proved my hypothesis or I have not. Now, if you've done some statistics, if you've done the statistical test I suggested, you are able to mathematically prove or not prove a hypothesis. Okay. If you haven't gone that far, you just have to look at the evidence. And rather than just say, I've completely proved or I've completely disproved my hypothesis, you probably just want to say partially proved. So you have some evidence to suggest that that is the case, but it's based on one transect of data on one beach. And there was even some variability on that one transect on that one beach. So to actually go ahead and say, yeah, pH does definitely change as I move away, it goes down or goes up, depending on what your conclusions show, then it would be a bit black and white to say that yes, you've conclusively proved that theory. You can only use the evidence, and it's a small amount of evidence to do so. So don't be so I have proved or I have not proved. Be a bit more nuanced when you write that. Okay. Your final sentence should be something about a link you create between the actual research question, which was pH, and the actual aim, which is slightly different from the research question. So have a look at the research, what the aim is aiming to achieve, because the final sentence should reflect back to that. Also, in your analysis and findings, you may have referred back to the model diagram, the beach, the diagram of the beach, what it should do and how it should change, and your results might indicate that change, that diagram is very accurate or not. And you might want to bring that back in just as further evidence to prove or disprove the thing that you're trying to achieve. So that is conclusion. Yours shouldn't be that long. I actually think you're looking at an extended paragraph to do this, because we are at the end of the day doing one research question. If you were doing 3, you would be required not just to write about each of the 3 research questions in turn, but you'd actually be asked to link them. So to what extent did your findings in one research question influence another research question? Because all your research questions ultimately come from the same aim, they are interconnected. So your results are always influencing each other. And when you do your own project, that will be a step that you cannot do here because we only have one research question, but in your own project, you will be doing it.